Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, we're going to take a look at Mühle Glashüte, and this watch company has sort of fascinated me. 2 or 3 years ago, I was in Rostock, Germany, and we were walking around, and I saw this. It was on the shop was closed, but it had the Mühle Glashüte sign, a picture of a watch, and I sort of put it in my head. Thought, oh, I'm going to take a look at these one of these days. And so today is one of these days, and I'll like to share with you what I found. It's a very interesting watch company, and I'm not quite sure what how to characterize it because it's very different in a lot of ways. So let's get started and take a quick look at it. Um, the first thing about it is that in order to understand Müller Glashüte, you got to understand the woodpecker neck regulation. This is something that goes in all of the movements that they use, and I should say all of the movements that they modify, because they really don't make a movement of their own from the ground up. They have bases of other movements, but we'll take a look is that here you sort of have a hybrid movement that's made of a movement that's a fairly standard base movement, and then they have some modifications to it. So this is what the woodpecker neck regulation looks like. There's a balance cock, and then the woodpecker neck spring, and there's then the fine regulation screw, and then they have a clamping screw on top of that, and then the I don't know, the regulator arm. I usually push it back and forth with a toothpick when I'm working with it. But the thing about this that's very interesting is that if you're banging around with a watch and you hit it, boom, somehow, you might move the regulator arm one way or the other. What the woodpecker neck regulation does, it's almost identical to a swan's neck adjusting regulator, but it's different. And what it does is that when you screw in the fine regulation screw, it moves the hand or the arm on the regulator, and this you can move it one way or the other. Now, what the woodpecker neck spring does is that it keeps it pushing it toward the screw. So as the screw moves this way, the spring is holding against the screw. When it goes this way, it's holding against the screw. So it's the kind of thing that is like I said, it's something like a swan's neck. There are a couple pictures of it down below. You can see where it goes in terms of where most of it looks like a regular regulator arm. And on the lower left there, you can see him putting the woodpecker neck spring in. So anyway, so this is a thing. This is a Mühle Glashüte thing. Okay, this is patented and so forth. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the watches now. Most of the watches have some version of a Solita, some ETAs, and some are even the ETA Unitas. We'll take a look at those in a bit. But when we take a look at this, here's a Solita SW200-1 with the woodpecker regulator on it. And when you look at the Mühle Glashüte movements and watches and so forth, they will tell you what they are. You click the little movement thing and say this is a Solita SW200-1, and there are a lot of them on that. The prices on these watches really aren't bad. I mean, they're not high horology prices. In this particular group, about, a little over about 2,500, 2,414 is the highest price they have. And then the lowest they have is, I've got one, I found one for 1150. Now, you're not going to find these on Joma Shop, but you will find them on overstock.com. And the particular one I found was reduced, and then it had some kind of special going. And so that's how it came down to that. This is on the what's called the M29 Classic in the lower left. In the middle is an interesting one. In the middle of the bottom, it's the AOPA Aerosport Limited Edition. It's Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. That's what it stands for. And they made a special one for this, and it was $18.99. It's got it's got that sort of Flieger pilot watch look to it, but it doesn't have the big crown on it. So anyway, you can see it's got a variety of different styles. So but this will give you an idea of the sort of the main kind of watches you'll find. Now, you also find some of the other types of Solitas. Here you have on the left is the Promare Datum, which uses the Solita 400. It costs a little more, about $2,000. That's not much more, but it's some more. And then they have one called the Sea Battalion. This is sort of an interesting one. This has a Solita 300 on it. So it's a lot more, $3,500 for that. And the Sea Timer. Now this is the one on the bottom left. It's going back. Now this has got the SW200 in it, and then you have the one with the bottom right. The Rasmus 2000 has a SW200 in it, but that's $3,500. That's a lot for a watch, I think. Okay, with that kind of movement in it. All right. Now, then the thing that I have liked about Mühle is that if you look at a watch, you click it and it says, okay, this has got an SW whatever next to it. I like that, okay? And it tells you the price, so you know what you're getting. Now, then all of a sudden there was this MU 9413. Well, that turns out to be an SW500, and the SW500 is a replacement for the ETA 7750. And just the difference, on the lower right there, you have the 29er chronograph with the MU 9413, and it's $36.79. Now, what I compared that to in the lower left is a Steinhardt chronograph with an ETA 7750, and it's only $920. Now, the case material and even the band may be better on the Mühle Glashüte, but it's almost $2,500, $2,700 better. I don't know. You have on the 9413 movement, you do have the Woodpecker regulator on it, but it is, and they have their own rotor, but let's face it, it's a Solita 500, and that's simply a replacement for the 7750. And if you look around, this is one of the things I really like to see the watch companies, if they're going to have something like an MU 9413, it should be something that they've done a whole lot to. And they've done some stuff to this, but I wouldn't call it a whole lot. All right, now here's another one, MU 9408, and it has a base of an ETA 7750. I don't know why they switched from a SW500 to 7750, but that's the base of the MU9408. A couple watches they have with it is, one is the Teutonia 2 Quadrant. This is a square watch. Again, it's a chronograph. And then the Mühle Glashüte Teutonia Sport 1, which is another chronograph, the Clou de Paris. But it uses what's called an MU9419, which is some version of either the ETA 7750 or the SW500. Again, something that, yeah, there were some variations to it, but were there really enough to justify it as being in-house? I'll put it that way. Okay. Finally, they have a line called manufacturing line of Mühle Glashüte. And I thought, okay, now this is really going to be something here. Well, I took a look at it. First of all, it was hand wind. I thought, oh boy, this is neat. And I looked at that, and it's got what's called a 3/5 plate on it, which is a German plate size, and it's got a big plate and then a little bridge right next to the balance wheel. And then over at around 1 o'clock, there's, at least in this picture, it's at 1 o'clock, they have what's called the Glashüte long slot click. Now, your regular click, if you take a look at the bottom one, this is a Unitas, ETA Unitas 6498-1. This is the base for that. And I put these, I've taken one apart and put it back together again. So and I've used a lot of it, and then the ST36s that are clones of the 6498, one of my favorite movements ever. But when we look at that, okay, is there enough difference there? Well, there is. If we look at that little bridge, you don't see that on the 6498, and you don't have the long slot click. You just have the little click there, and in the bottom you can see it about right around 3 o'clock, and you don't have the engraving on the balance cock either, and of course you don't have the woodpecker, the engraving on the woodpecker cock either. So, you know, you got, and these things can get real expensive. Now, the one on the right is their moon phase in platinum, and you know, if it's platinum, that thing's going to cost a lot, and it was hard finding the prices on these. And then on the left there, the Robert Mühle Zygerdatum, you have a lot of added things to it. You've got, like, at 9 o'clock, there's a hand date, and there's some, and then at 3 o'clock, there's power reserve indicator. But manufacturing line, you know, this is something that's sort of, yeah, they've done a lot of stuff to it. Certainly the finishing, you can tell by the finishing is done quite nicely, but to call that sort of a manufactured movement, I don't know. But anyway, you have this something, I suppose, that it's like a hybrid mechanical movement, but not too hybrid. It's mostly what the original one was, some decorations more than anything else. Okay, well, listen, it's some of these watches I really like the looks of. I know what's inside most of them. In fact, I know what's inside all of them. If you go to Watch Base, you'll find out they have all of the movements, and none of them are based on a from the ground up movement. But if that's the only important thing about that, really, is that how much you're paying for it. Now, the ones that are running on the Solitas 200s, they're not too bad. But some of these other ones, when they use this MU or RMK to it, you'd expect something a little more in-house. But that's me. Maybe I'm too hard on them. Let's hear what you have to say. I'd really like to hear your opinion on it. And until Sunday, when we're going to have our collection review, very interesting collection review. I think you're going to find it. I think you're going to like it. Always an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until Friday then, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art, the Art and Science of Watch Collection. One more thing. Tomorrow, Saturday, in the morning, I'm going to have it at 9:30 in the morning. We're going to have our live stream. The reason for that, I had promised some guys in Asia that I'd have it at a time that they could see it. So this won't be a problem for Europe. It'll be more like in the middle of the day for them. Guys on the West Coast and Pacific Coast, unless you want to get up really early, you might have sort of trouble with it. Anyway, hope to see you then.